I'm going to show you another wall here. Right there. Now see how the tile, see even with them putting this down here, this is the piece of trim that they've put down, and that happens to be a quarter round. It's just a quarter of a round piece of trim. That's why they call it quarter round. See the gap down here? Well, this is a tile floor, and the floor probably has a slight dip in here, which it does. And with this tall base, there's only so much you can do with tall base to push it down and try to fit it perfectly tight with the tiles, because what they did here is they installed the tile floor first before they installed the base. And there's a question for you. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? You know, do you install the base first and run that down and then push the tile up to it, or do you have the tile installers install the tile first and then the base? Well, in this case, all of the tile got installed before the base. Then they ran this tall base here. They couldn't push it down far enough to keep everything nice and tight. So they used quarter round, and the quarter round is flexible to a certain extent. But it's not, you know, if you've got something too far, you can only push this down so far before it starts hitting on your tile somewhere else, or if you have a bow into it, or even like where your grout lines are. You know, this grout line here, it's gonna slightly dip here. See, there's a very slight little bit of a gap right there. Well, that's how they decided to do this entire house. And when you do something like that, then you get questions about your trim around your door casings, because this is sticking out, so they have to cut this back here. They cut it back at maybe at 22.5 degrees. You could cut it back at a 45.2 or whatever. But this house, you know, 12-year-old house, and they ran it like that. Well, you know, I've seen it done both ways, and here's the thing. You see there? Done the same thing, and they've done it throughout the entire house. Well, if you install the tile first, what you're going to have to do, well, you don't have to cut the tile as perfectly straight all around corners and up against the walls and measure everything. You do it as tight. You know, you can have a 3/8 of an inch gap or so, knowing that your baseboard is going to cover that, and then you've got this trim on the bottom, because all of your base, I'm going to tell you right now, if you think you can get by without this quarter round trim at the bottom or some sort of small little trim, you're just kidding yourselves, because if you have your tile floor down first and you install your base, there's no way you're going to get all of your base perfectly tight with your floor. No way, no how. And you think, oh yeah, I'll shave some of my trim at the bottom and I'll make it perfect, so that when I come across something really long, a long wall like this, if I have a dip in the middle, or a dip up, a crown up, or a dip down, I'll shave all the bottom of my base. Well, you know, that takes a long time, and you might not get it all 100% perfect and all that. Okay? So that's why they use all this quarter trim down here. Now the other way to do it is to install all the tile or all the baseboard first. You'd install the big tall baseboard first. You wouldn't need the quarter round trim there. Then you would cut all of your tile up and leave yourself a nice little reveal around the edge. Like however thick your tile grout lines are, this happens to be, oh, I don't know, maybe a 1/4 inch or so, 3/16 to a 1/4 inch. Then you would have to cut your tile about a 1/4 inch shy of all of your baseboard to have it look all nice and pretty. Well, see, they decided they didn't want to do that because that's a lot more work for the tile guy. He's got to make his marks perfect almost. You know, after you get this tile done, he's got to measure this exact here, exact across over here to get all of his angles right and stuff. Even on a long wall, if your long walls, no matter what, you're always going to have bump outs. Here's a bump out here. Here's another bump out. Here's a bump out. And once you get your full length tiles done, now if you're tiles are not exactly perfect with your walls for the same measurements, now you're going to have to come from here and measure over, go over to here, measure over, cut that so that your grout line is a nice 1/4 inch or however far you want it all the way along, away from your base, because that's going to show now, right? So the questions that come up when you install a baseboard, and here's something else. What do you do at a transition where the carpet is? Okay, see right in here, they've got the 1/4 round trim on top of the tile, and now they've got carpet. Well, they just ran their base, and see, the base is all nice and straight at the top, isn't it? It just keeps on going. And so you would run your base right on top of your tile here, and now you've got about whatever thickness your tile is. This is probably 3/8 inch. And so before the carpet gets installed, you would run your baseboard along on your carpeted areas about 3/8 of an inch or so above your carpet, because then when they put their tack strip on, they run the tack strip a little bit away from the edge of your wall of your carpet. And so the tack strip is right in here. Then that gives them enough room. Once they cut the carpet, they can kind of tuck the carpet down, and it kind of pooches underneath the baseboard just a little bit. And that's how you do that. It makes your carpet install a nice install that way, okay? You talk to a carpet guy. If you have any questions, you can talk to your local hardware store, talk to the carpet department and ask them, hey, you want to install some base, how should you do it? And I bet you they will say to do it that same way, okay? Now, I think that's all I was going to show you. I just wanted you to see that throughout this entire house, they've got the baseboard that way. See, with that 1/4 round trim on there. And when you got painted trim, it looks okay. You know, it kind of blends in as long as everything's done the same all the way along everywhere. Now, if this base was stained or something like that, you might want to do things a little bit different. That's all I got for this time, but I'll be back with more videos.